Chapter 5. Feel the civilization. Let's explore how the Chinese people invented Chinese characters and how they are used. Please keep in mind that Chinese characters have rules and are a systematic form of writing. Now let's look at two images. The first one. The second one. What do you see?
I saw two pictures, each with a few Chinese characters.
Well,
You got a good eye, son.
did you manage to uncover anything else?
Well, perhaps we might see something different tomorrow. You know, the wind was quite strong today, which might have affected my powers of observation.
Do you realize you're already a master now? Shame on you. Master. Let's take a look at them. These characters all have something in common, like although we don't know the meanings of these characters, they share common components. This is a kind of connection, isn't it? These characters were invented during the earliest days and there may be hundreds of them. Let's call them as individual characters. These individual characters are mostly related to natural observations. They abstracted the true forms of these natural objects or activities that people observed, turned them into symbols, and thus created these Chinese characters. These characters were gradually created throughout the thousands of years of historical development. Let's call them as compound characters. As people's descriptions of various things, activities, and concepts increased in daily life, the individual characters were combined according to certain rules to form new Chinese characters. So you see, Chinese characters were not suddenly created thousands of years ago, as you might think. Like this. Chinese characters were created by Chinese people constantly observing and transforming nature in their lives and work. Next, we'll take a closer look at how Chinese characters are produced. The earliest Chinese characters might have been drawn like a picture, but there's no archaeological evidence, so we can only speculate. For example, water flows, then it evolved into this, and then it is what we know today. Likewise, these two characters probably began with drawings as well, and there's a strong possibility of that happening, just like pigs flying. And that's how the very first batch of Chinese characters was brought into existence. As civilization progressed, and people's productive activities became more diverse, the previous method of character creation could no longer meet people's needs. Therefore, compound characters became the primary method of character creation. Please note that the process of creating Chinese characters was quite a lengthy one. Let's take a closer look. These are Chinese characters from over 3,000 years ago. Archaeological discoveries have found approximately 4,300 individual characters. This is a dictionary from approximately 2,000 years ago during the Han Dynasty, which includes 9,353 individual characters. These were probably all the Chinese characters that existed in that era. This is a dictionary from approximately 1,000 years ago during the Song Dynasty, which includes around 26,194 individual characters. These were almost all the Chinese characters that already existed in that era. This is a dictionary from over 200 years ago, which includes 47,043 individual characters. These characters are probably all the Chinese characters we have now. It's only been a little over 200 years, so there won't be too many new characters created now. However, please remember, it's not that no new characters are created now, just that it won't be too many. For example,
商同田傲
by the way, you can find many newly created Chinese characters in the periodic table.
I have a question. Just like this periodic table of elements shows, do scientists create new Chinese characters to represent newly discovered elements?
Yes, that's absolutely correct, Mr. Sharp. We'll provide some examples of this later on. Now, let's do the maths. The Shang Dynasty. From 1600 to 1046 BC, over 4,300 Chinese characters, found from archaeological discoveries. The Han Dynasty. From 206 BC to 220 AD, 9,353 Chinese characters, collected in the dictionary. The Song Dynasty. From 960 to 1279, 26,194 Chinese characters, collected in the dictionary. The Qing Dynasty. from 1644 to 1912. 47,043 Chinese characters, collected in the dictionary. Now, can you see the comical path of the evolution of Chinese characters? And the highest classified fact is that during these past 2,000 years, the characters created have mostly been compound characters. Top secret. These dictionaries meticulously spill the beans on these secrets. Let's crack the code with a pinch of cleverness. Now, by understanding these principles, using Chinese characters will become much easier for us. Now let's look at these. We can see that they are all composed of two individual characters. The left side is always this, and the right side is different Chinese characters. Let's see the meanings of these compound characters. What do you notice?
All about eyes.
That's right. Their meanings are all related to the concept of eyes. Now let's focus on the right side of these characters. Let's carefully listen to their pronunciations. And these compound characters.
明棉灯邓苗苗丁丁娇乔
What do you notice? Yes, the pronunciation of the right side is the same as or similar to the pronunciation of the compound characters. This pattern is very common in Chinese characters. That means, in an compound characters, composed of two or three individual characters, one part expresses the semantic aspect while the other represents the phonetic aspect. Isn't it simple? Now let's explore another aspect of the systematic nature. We can see that they are also composed of individual characters. Let's see if there's any pattern. Here's the components of each compound characters. Now, let's look at the meanings of these individual characters and the compound characters they form. Is the first character seems like someone's being trapped within a fence? Take a wild guess.
Well, this gentleman is in prison, that's my observation.
Your powers of observation are so precise, it's like you have a supercharged magnifying glass for eyes. Well, it's not a good situation. So, this means prisoner or imprisonment. The second one, a tiny speck of dirt?
Well, this time maybe we could pick up the word, dust.
I agree.
In fact, this character is equivalent to this one. Because this character is simple, it was chosen as the standard simplified character, replacing this traditional character. Even though they look different, they are the same in all other aspects.
So why does this character also mean dust? I can somewhat understand this to mean dust, so is this character also like a tiny speck of dirt?
Liberate your mind and expand your thinking space. Smart guy. It's because this character has a
路
on top and
土
at the bottom. Imagine this scene in your mind. Wouldn't there be dust in that scene? Now the third character, a man's word? What does it mean?
What words? Swearing words?
I beg your pardon.
Well, I think of a saying often used in American movies.
I give you my word.
Now, can you understand it? Yes, it means believe or trust. The last one seems a bit simpler. Oh, there are too many fires. Take a wild guess. It would be hot with a fire. Indeed, that's the nature. What about many fires?
Would that be hot like hell?
You are always the smart guy. Yes, that's exactly the meaning. There are many such patterns in Chinese characters. When two individual characters are combined, they create a new meaning that is associated with the meanings of the individual characters. Now, let's discuss something about the periodic table of elements. First off, these elements, like thousands of years ago, their names were already cooked up. What we're really focusing on here are those elements that weren't on the radar a few thousand years ago, especially these ones. What can you spot in these names? Let's take a closer look. How about now?
It seems like they're all wearing the same cape, and that's my observation.
A big yes.
Master.
We just need to translate your English a little bit. When you mentioned that cape, you were talking about a Chinese character, which means air or gas. So, these elements are all gases, and since they're all donning this cape, it means they share a bunch of chemical properties. As for the rest, each one is unique, because we need another part to represent the phonetic aspect, right?
氦氖氩氪山东奥
And these elements' names are
氦
helium,
氖
neon,
氩
argon,
氪
krypton,
氙
xenon,
东
Radon.
奥
Organism.
Are the pronunciations from Chinese name and English name relevant to each other? It seems like the connection are not that close. Maybe it's the accent issues.
No, brun. The color. Brun. Oh, brown. Aye.
Just joking. Because each Chinese character has only one syllable. Remember?
Well, I don't get it. Why don't we take 2 or 3 Chinese characters to pronounce those English names of these chemical elements?
It is really a problem now. Well, maybe we could say fortune cookies only exists in America's Chinese restaurants, not in China.
Okay, guys, here's your bill and your fortune cookies.
Thank you.
Hard to believe, isn't it? Don't be so picky, my dear fellas. Just take it as a rule. So, these bits define their chemical properties, and these parts help you pronounce their names. Apart from newly coined characters, modern Chinese is also loaded with newly coined words, consisting of 2 or 3 characters. For example, this one. It was coined because of the great invention, the telephone. This character means electricity or electrical, and this one means words or the words you say. So, this word essentially means a device or hardware for speaking or communicating through electricity. The telephone. There are a multitude of examples like this in modern Chinese, and perhaps we'll dedicate a whole chapter to them later. But for now, let's leave that be. So, Chinese characters are created systematically following certain rules. When we study Chinese characters, we can use these patterns to improve our learning efficiency. You can focus on learning those individual characters first. Then, when you study Chinese characters, you'll find that it's really simple.
So, how are these characters written? I can't exactly carry a printer with me to print Chinese characters, can I? Is there something like individual character writing and compound character writing in Chinese? Should I focus on learning individual character writing first?
Well, be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day. How to write Chinese characters is truly a mystery. In the next episode, we'll take down this endgame boss. Buddies, see you in the next episode.